Now, this is bits and bobs on the Gardaí bits and bobs and things like that, right? So, about 1955 or therefore, there was nearly very poor conditions, very poor pay, and there was a Conroy Commission then about 1970, but the late 60s, and there was a big uprising in the Macushla ballroom in Dublin, and they were complaining over conditions and iron heel discipline. I mean, life nearly wasn't worth living. I think it actually affected the mentality of a lot of the guards. Some of them were lovely people. I knew some of them who retired and lived to be old people. And I always found there was something you could see. And I think it was being subjected. It was like being in a prisoner of war camp. I mean, the Templemore training from I think 64 to about 68 was unbelievable. There'd be superintendents down the town when people would go down to buy an ice cream, watching them and coming in watching what they were talking about and what they were doing. And you had to wear a tie if you went down the town in your ordinary clothes. And they'd be seeing had you tied and looking and poking in here and seeing was that tie a proper tie or was there only a stuck on one. And it was unbelievable. I actually think it did affect. It was great training in that you'd be able to cope with anything. Now, one of the things they had in Templemore was drill, marching up and down, which was unbelievably good crack. It was as good as stuff. I really think that although I'm not a military supporter, drill is good apart from any military thing. The idea of lining up in uniform and marching and all the various manoeuvres. It is a lovely, intricate, um, accurate uh, discipline. It is a sport in itself, and I don't think there's any videos online. But I'd say an awful lot of housewives and that would actually love it. Now you'd want to be fairly fit, and you have to wear boots that make a crack when you come down on the ground. And there's always one fella off step, but very, 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 very good, and that helped to keep the sanity of them in Templemore. There was also physical training which was taken too far. They let guards go because they couldn't swim. Well, no, maybe that's a bit much, but they let guards go because they couldn't run fast enough and stuff like that. Physical training. I'm not a great believer in it at all. I'm a farmer. I'm running around the place night, noon, and morning. Maybe I'm a bit biased. I don't need anyone to tell me where to run or anything like that. But the thing about it is that they were big into that, and they taught law, but they were very weak on policing and how to police and how policing works. They didn't teach any civil law. No, they just taught the basic law, so that many guards were ignorant and weren't capable of doing it. But the other thing then is, and a lot of people don't know this, and I think it's still the case, where, as one old sergeant said to me one time, it's amazing that my mental health is dependent on the mental health of the superintendent. There were some superintendents who were utterly nuts. They're utterly bananas. There was one fellow sold his house to move to Dublin from a country station, and he asked the guards to come down and carry the oil out. He had some kind of a barrel outside in a trailer, and they had to carry the oil in buckets out from the house. He wouldn't leave the drop of oil for the new person that took over. And there was another case where this fellow went out, and there was a little small station over in Leitrim, and the guards was fond of the drink. Some of them be very fond of the drink. And it was a problem, there's no doubt. And he came in to do, and there was nobody in the station. He went to do the brooks, and there was a guard. There was coats hanging up, and this guard got in behind the coat and had to stay perfectly still till he went, and he never realised the guard was hiding there. There was this sort of stuff. But anyway, now the guards, some of them were funny too. But the problem is, what did the good, genuine, hard-working guard do when everyone around him was totally mad? When the super was mad, the sergeant was mad, the inspector was mad, and the inspector was mad for promotion, and all he wanted to catch was the decent fella. So if you had four alcoholics in the station and one decent fella, if they caught the alcoholics, they didn't get promoted, didn't get the same glory for it. But if they could catch the decent fella, that was, oh, you caught him out, oh, he must be, that shows you how good you are. They'd get promoted then on that. And this was the constant environment. And then they were sent out on the road, and they had to have cases, they had to catch people for things and be catching them for this, that, and the other. And many of them didn't know the law and all that. And there was that superintendent again went into a court when he was on holidays, and the guard was given evidence, and he shouted up to him, and the judge told him, "How dare you prompt a witness in the witness box?" This was the kind of thing. There was another fellow in Dublin, and he used to go out and check the socks. He'd be wearing white socks. Some of the clothes were supposed to wear black or green, or black or blue, and he'd be checking that. So there's all of this is the history. But anyway, as the 70s came in and the troubles in the north came in, You had Garvey, they got over Garvey, and then they went back to something a bit more normal because that type of thing wouldn't be worn. People would walk away, they wouldn't put up with that stuff. But one of the things that a lot of people doesn't realise is that for most of the time of the guards, and still, the guard has to type out his own reports. When they go to a scene of an accident, when they catch a fellow for breaking into your house, they have to write down regarding a burglary at such and such and such a city. The burglary took place. It was examined. It was a fingerprint found. The fingerprint was checked. It was belonged to John Henry McGurty. He's a well-known criminal. He was arrested. He made a statement. We now recommend he be prosecuted. And there's a good lot of stuff. And then the statement has to be taken of John Joe McGurty, and then of the people who own the house. I own the house. I'm Michael Flynn, and I give no one permission to come in here, and all of that. And that has to normally, a guard that thinks anything of himself will not hand up a handwritten report. It's very hard to read it. And if it has to go further to the state solicitor or to the chief superintendent or to the director of public prosecutions, it really has to be typed. And in most stations, there's nobody to do that. In some stations, there's an excess of them. It's the pure luck of the draw. I understand a fellow was telling me, I'm talking to a guard, he said Ballymun he was in it, and I think the station there yet, and he says there's great staff there, you can get anything typed. But in many cases, the reason the guard doesn't want coming out to your traffic accident is not that he doesn't see what happened and all that, it's that he's going to have to spend hours going click, 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 and there was old Remington typewriter, click, 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 click. And even with the word processor, it has to be done out on a word processor, and charge sheets for charging people are a prescribed form. There's a proper form, and you have to type on it with an old typewriter and things like that. So the secretarial backup is unbelievably bad. All the girls and men taken in to help are all up in the super's office. The super has a fierce workload. The chief superintendent has a big workload. And all the staff are taken in there. And what they sometimes do, they'll assign maybe a lady who's good at typing to maybe a detective office or to the sergeant maybe in some town. I don't like naming places, we'd say Kells, I'm just picking it. And they'll take them away then when they're needed. So if there's a murder, she's taken away. And there's a murder somewhere else, the sergeant or the person to whom that person was assigned has to do without them. The other big problem is that detectives or local guards or local sergeants may have 3 people assigned to them to do crime, and that's hard work. You have to go to Dublin, you have to arrest these people, you have to search, so they may have 3 people assigned there, and if something big happens, they're taken away, maybe we'll say it's Kells, they could be taken to Dundalk, and they don't see them for 6 weeks, and all of the work at that station goes. This is a problem. I don't have readily the answer, but the thing is, this is what can happen. So if you join the guards and you end up being a sergeant, you could find yourself running the whole substation, the whole district, that whole area, whole town, and nobody around. Nobody around. Another big problem is two bosses. The guards have a nasty habit of putting 2 bosses. One is the uniform superintendent who controls the finance. The other is the detective superintendent who controls operations. And this fella has to pay, and if he pays out too much, when he goes up for promotion, he won't get promoted because he paid out too much money. If this fella doesn't get the money, he can't get promoted because he hasn't the money from this fella. So if this fella wins the war on finance, he gets promoted. If he loses, this fella gets promoted. If this fella gives the money to this fella gets promoted, and he doesn't. Do you get the point? This is the ridiculous thing. And they very often give 2 completely conflicting views. They give 2 completely conflicting orders. They'll tell you, today you're to do that. Oh no, today you're to do that. And the unfortunate sergeant or guard has to decide. And he's wrong whichever way he goes. And no way will the chief superintendent intervene. That is a golden rule. The golden rule. And it's the same today with Drew Harris. And it's the same with the Gardaí all down the way. Nobody interrupts the local superintendent. He's God. He is God. He's so much God. I've said this before. He could go off. We say he's in Kildare. He could head off down to Killarney, rob the bank and come back up and nobody would touch him. That is a fact. And in the inquiry into the arms planting in Donegal, that was noticed. The other problem with it is that there's certain areas where the jobs are kept for Dublin closies, people who are close to the centre of power, get promoted and they've nowhere to put them in Dublin and they put them down the country. Now, I have given a formula before on that, and if anyone wants it, I can give it to you again. There is a way of calculating which division is the right one for promotion. There's some divisions where you have a very good chance of getting promoted, and there's others where you have nearly zero. And there's a way of figuring out that mathematically, but I know that when it comes to mathematics, a lot of people don't turn off. So anyway, that's the thing. Now, what's the story with people joining now? I don't know. They have a great credit union. They have a great medical aid system. It's expensive, but it's good. You get a pension. Yeah, but you'll have to go away from where you're from. You have no say where you're going to be positioned. And I think one of the things the Garda need to do is, if they're looking for recruits, they need to have a deal with the recruit. Right, if you get in and you're doing all right, we'll let you be stationed in a certain area. Because we'll say you get a chap who we'll say is maybe he's from we'll say pick a place, Athenry in Galway. Maybe he wants to be down there, maybe his mother's ill or that, and he'd just like to be somewhere in the west of Ireland. If he's horsed up in the Store Street in Dublin, not only will he be working very hard there, it's very difficult there, very dangerous place, and nobody cares what you're doing, you have to be there, and they can call you up and say, come in, you might get overtime, but if you're down the Sligo, you won't be able to do that, so you have to be answerable. So they need to say, right, if you get promoted, we may put you for a year somewhere, but then you will get back, so that you have an idea of where you're going to be positioned. Because if any young person today is looking for a job in an industry, if they're in Dublin and it's Guinness's, well, they'll be in Dublin in Guinness's. If it's Dundalk and it's the Harp Lager Brewery, well, they'll be in the Harp Lager Brewery. Do you understand what I mean? If they join a concrete place in a supplier in the country, well, that's where they're going to be. And that's the problem with the guards. You don't know where they're going to put you, and they can put you anywhere. And then the other problem is pull. Pull. You go in to Templemore and you're waiting, what station will you get? You could be from, we'll say, Longford, and you might be getting, they usually try and put you somewhere reasonable. They're not that bad that way. So they might decide to put you into Boring Offaly, which wouldn't be too bad. They might do that. But there will be people in your class who know exactly where they're going before they ever join. They'll be able to tell you, I'm from Wexford and I'm getting Waterford, before they're assigned at all. So this trouble with political influence from outside the force, and then it's worse in the job, because every chief superintendent will be able to ring the next fella and organise who gets the big job, and what they do doesn't matter. Oh, that fella, oh, will he wheel him here now? Oh, that's a bit of a head case, that fella. Oh no, now didn't I fix you up last year? I want that man, and he'll know the mother or something else, and that lad will get promoted, and the fella that arrested several people, solved a few crimes, will get nothing. And there was a very good case of that, where there was a girl down in Kilkenny which was abused so badly by her parents that her eye was put out of her head. They put the eye out of the young girl's head, and a policewoman, her name kind of escapes me, followed it through and got no help and put her own effort into it. And it was in the paper about her doing a good job. I think she was Angela, don't hold me on that. But anyway, Dr. Conor Cruz O'Brien was out of power, and he wrote in the paper that a wee bit of promotion would be no harm. That was her death knell. As far as I know, she got no promotion, no recognition. And the reason probably was, if I was to guess it, as she was homing in on this family that were abusing their children, somebody may have spotted that she had a good case, and they would have said, we are taking over that. So if you put years of work into something and you're getting near it, you may have to go to a higher officer to get extra staff to do a search or something. They'll say, that's a good case. Now they'll tell you, I'm taking that case off you now, and it's going to be assigned to Inspector Milligan, just see who's the name, and you'll work with him on that, or he'll take it away. And then you're expected to hand over your whole case and all your work to somebody who has nothing to do with it and gets the credit. And then when they crack it, they'll get promoted. If that lady, policewoman, had to give that over to the person who the chief superintendent or somebody in the area wanted, and let them solve it and let them get their names in the paper, and all of this, she would get nothing, but the fellow that got the case would get all the promotion. Do you understand the way they work? I hope if that explained. Now, I cannot say if that's the case in this particular lady, but I can say that's how it works. You can put your guts out, try to fix something and trying to do a great thing and a great job for your community. And if they see there's promotion in it or some plus, they'll take that off that guard and give it to somebody else. That's how vicious they are. They're past masters at it. So I hope I've explained that. Now I think on that video I've given a rough idea. Still in all, for a for a man or a woman choosing a career, the other thing about it is too, if you join the Guards and you serve there, you'll never be able to go out for a drink anymore. You could be 86 years of age and they say, oh, you're an old guard. Oh, you're an old guard. And when you're in the pub having a drink and maybe you're resigned from it, gone from it, retired from it or anything else. And it's the same a bit with the army. They'll start slagging you. The Irish ordinary Joe Soap in the working class areas hates authority. And they'll be throwing up to you, oh, you new guard, oh, new guard. And some of them do. Decent people don't do that. But there are a lot of them doing that. And they'll deliberately start singing in the pub and start singing out IRA songs and all that, and old songs about customs and all this. And you carry this with you all your life. They don't let you go in rural areas and even in city areas. I don't know. It's a vocation of a thing, and you have to be cut out from it. Cut out for it. However, if you're not too concerned about all this messing, well then maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to consider it. Maybe not. The big problem is location. It's nice to know where you're going to be and where you want to be. And if you're born and reared in a place, it's a big upheaval to take you out of it. And I see all people who went away, and I don't see them twopence better off than those who stayed around. In most cases, most parts of Ireland are all right if you have a job and all that. And I knew people who worked in garages doing storekeeper and got over 140,000 when they retired of a gratuity. Guards get a lump sum and all that, and they get a pension. And the pension is guaranteed, and it's good that way. So look, I'm after giving a rough rundown of this whole thing about policing, and it's very hard to say what the story is. It has to be said too that many of the smarter guards never bother with promotion. They got to a station that they wanted to be living in, and they built there, or they had a farm, or they had something, and they moved back to where they came from, and they travelled in every day to there. Some are stuck in houses they had when they were in the job, and once you retire, you're nobody. And that is a big thing. Once you retire from any part of the public service, you're gone. You are definitely gone. You are a nobody. And some superintendents and chiefs can't take that. There was a superintendent in the Midlands offered to work for 2 years free, and they have this whole thing about status. Oh, I'm a superintendent. Ew, ew, and this, you know, people, ordinary people working with this now. That's a bit gone at the minute. That's waning, but it's replaced by this damn woke stuff, where you have to call a boy a girl and a girl's name and call her Julia, a man a boy, you know, and all this. Now I am dedicating a lot of my free time to destroying DESTROYING, the woke agenda, the green agenda, the renewable energy agenda, and the whole damn bloody lot of them, and their own EU agenda as well, and trying to hack away at them. So you have to take me in that context. So I hope that's a help. We'll try and do something else on it again. That's the situation with the Irish police force. You want to understand the Irish. I love the Irish people, and I love Ireland, and I'm an Irishman, true and true. But I know, I know my fellow countrymen. I know them inside out. There was one superintendent who was very great with the owners. He liked an old pint, and he was very great with the owners of a big nightclub and all that, away off. And the owner sold it and went, and there come another fella in who was a gangster. And he was allowing drugs to be taken in the toilets and all that. You know this about water and ecstasy and all that. And they couldn't get stopped. The local guards were aghast at this drug unit. And he was out drinking at night, noon in the morning. And one time they waited till they got him on his holidays. He was abroad somewhere on holidays for 2 weeks. And they launched a raid. And the first thing the owner did was ring a man abroad. And the guards had it arranged that the phones in the station were all occupied. That people in just come in and be on the phone, and so that when he went ringing the station, he couldn't get through. He couldn't get through, and when he rang the mobiles, he couldn't get through. And they completed the operation. They got some whatever they did, got a few drugs, got whatever was done, and got all done. And when he came back, he went bowling, and the sergeant, well, nobody told us. I was ringing up, and I don't know. So that's drugs. Do you agree with drugs? I don't. And they got over it that way. That fellow didn't last long after that. He got promoted because he was connected to a politician, a Fianna Fáil politician, I can tell you. So you can see that's rare now. That's not that often. That would give a very bad impression. Most superintendents would not support drugs. They would not support child abuse. They're not that bad. I don't want to give that black impression. I'm just trying to give an accurate impression and tell that outlier. That's extreme. I don't believe that will ever happen again. I don't believe that will ever happen again. And maybe I shouldn't have thrown it in at all. But that's the general situation. Uh, it can be frustrating. And another thing too, if you go to Dublin and there's a crime in a shop, you could be sent out there at 6 o'clock, and the scenes of crime people could arrive at 2, and you have to stand from 6 to 2 just outside that shop there. Just outside that shop, you just stand there. That's it. That can be very, very boring. I mean, you go up around the President's Place in the Phoenix Park. There's about 6 guards around it full time. The Taoiseach's home has protection. Oh my God, imagine sitting 8 hours, and sometimes there might be no replacement. They'll give you a bit of allowance. Will you do 8 hours? Imagine standing at a gate for 8 hours. That is not easy. Look at the Dáil guards outside on my feet now at noon in the morning. It is not an easy job that way. It's not a very easy job. So, yeah, I don't know whether it's worth it or not. There probably are easier ways of making a living. I won't go any further than that. That's my contribution to it. I haven't really told you whether you should join or not. If you think you're cut out for it in that type of life, though, and you like being in uniform and that, I'm not saying it's not the job. You'll not get perfect anywhere. You won't get perfect anywhere. New York's the same. They all have what they call rabbis. That means they have pull. Some of them have connections, others don't. Same thing. I had relations with policemen in New York. I know all about them. So that's the story, folks. A long-winded video, but just to give a kind of a synopsis. The first thing needs to be done with Drew Harris. Well, I don't know. Some say he should be got rid of. Say he'll not last that much longer, and they'll put some other idiotic woman, a black woman, in of course, and you'll have more mayhem. You'll have more mayhem. But at any event, yeah, the first thing needs to be done is that the promotion system needs to be taken out of the hands of the people at the top, and allow somebody maybe in Roscommon who's doing a good job to get on. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't. They are getting on to a certain amount, but this came up in 2 judicial reports on Donegal, where the Donegal guards couldn't get anywhere. They couldn't get ever promoted, and they had a resort to planting guns and bombs all over the place. That was a fact. Folks, look, I could go on for ages. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something else. Thank you.